So Marius, what technology are you learning right now?
Right now, Python for robotics, exactly.
Python for robotics.
Yeah.
This is definitely going to be interesting. Hi, I'm Sam from Prismic. Today, I'm here with Marius Ballot. Marius is a pretty interesting creative developer, and we're talking about exciting trends in web development and technology in general. So Marius, thanks so much for being here. Why are you learning robotics?
Because it is something that I always wanted to learn. I am in web development I have been in web development for such a long time. Not really, but like at my age, it's been a long time, like 2 to 3 years. And I'm happy to see things I create on a screen. But robotics, you have this new element of having something that you can touch right in front of you, and that really can make stuff move. Like you cannot do more creative than that, in my opinion. This would be different to everyone, but yeah, I really love the fact that you can really see what you're doing.
So something that's interesting about the work that I've seen that you've done is that you use a lot of technologies that are like almost brand new, or that are like very innovative, kind of like on the edge. Can you just like tell us like what are some of the technologies, frameworks, coding languages, libraries, trends that you have tried out that are kind of trendy and cool?
Along the years, I think the first like real technology that I needed to really learn, that was kind of new, not really, but used in general at that time, was Cinema 4D. And this was pretty nice to actually play with, because it was my very first kind of professional thing that I've touched that isn't the same as, let's say, Paint or something. You can really you have this tool, and you have the power to create something that could be on a cinema screen, for example. So this was pretty cool. So to go along that, I was in Cinema 4D for quite some time, and I switched to Blender because something that I really like, it is open source. But the learning curve is way steeper, way steeper. So yeah, currently using a lot of, well, for the past couple of years, I also did that, but a lot of Three.js. Tried and failed quite a lot at native WebGL. Yeah, because of the.
I'm sure, like a lot of people.
Yeah. I tried to create my own framework, actually.
We won't talk too much about WebGL today, but if you are interested, you can check out our other video with Bruno Simon, where he breaks down exactly what WebGL is, why it's so hard to learn, and compares it to Three.js, and talks about why Three.js is sort of an amazing savior for people who have worked with WebGL. We'll put the link in the description.
As you just said, and I'm sure Simon, Bruno bring it. Yeah, native WebGL is so hard, but yeah, Three.js is pretty fun to learn. Actually, when you know a bit of JavaScript, you can really have some fun playing with it, and you can do so much. You are limited by the browser, obviously, but yeah, so nice. And in the continuity of that, you then have something that I've learned and that I also fell deeply in love with, Unity, the video game engine software. And this again is so nice, because you can do everything you did on the browser, everything you did with Blender, mix them all together, and now you have this thing where you can do absolutely anything you want with. You can create a video game. You can even create them websites with it. Also, if we solely talk about code, GLSL is really nice to learn. So this is your own custom shaders you can do, for example, in Three.js.
And have you done anything with, I know you're interested in it, have you started doing any work with machine learning?
Yeah, before I played a lot with machine learning. This is something that I'm really trying to get good at, because it is the future. Like, people say it everywhere. I'm not sure about it, but I think it is. Play with it, for example, with TensorFlow.js. Nothing to finish, nothing too crazy, but like, yeah, I have trained my data sets, try to create a few neural networks here and there, but nothing too crazy at the moment. But I am currently learning about it. Yeah.
And you're learning robotics.
Yeah, alongside with that. So this is more school related, but yeah, I'm into robotics. Great.
One thing that just stands out to me is like you mentioned virtual reality in Node, you mentioned machine learning in TensorFlow, you mentioned 3D with Three.js. Like these are three humongous areas of technology, but doing it all in JavaScript, which is like I don't really have a question here, but it kind of blows my mind how far JavaScript has come.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Starting with Node, just having something that your machine can understand and that is directly JavaScript, something that was created for the web. JavaScript basically is everywhere right now. And we talked about robotics. There is actually a Node a Node package that allows you to create Arduino code directly with JavaScript. You can create damn robots with JavaScript nowadays, which is amazing. Like JavaScript will be everywhere in a bit. For me, it's kind of the new Python in a sense.
For you, speaking of robotics, what is it like going from manipulating something that only has a digital presence to manipulating something that has like a mechanical real world presence?
It is a bit sad, but for the moment, from the little I know about it, is the exact same thing, but with constraints.
More constraints.
Like you have to take care about data sizes because you are working on such small software where you need to be careful of the CPU performances of your maybe FPGA board or your microcontroller. You need to work out with registers, garbage collectors, and so many new stuff that you just have to be careful of. And also, something that is way less fun is debugging. So when you're on the web browser, it's nice. You have a little console that just takes you by the hand and say, "Oh yeah, your mistake is just right here, line 35."
Your console sounds a lot kinder than my console.
no, like it's really that. When you're working with a robot, we actually did a huge project at school during something called the Master Camp, where we had to create really simple thing, just a digital code interface where you have to register a code and something opens up. Easy, but we had to go as deep as create the electrical doors, logic doors, to do that directly in VHDL, a language that just that creates electrical logics. So directly with binary. It's like being a chef, but instead of just cooking with your wooden spoon, you have yourself to carve it out and do the electronics for your oven. This was as deep as that. And when you have so many layers, the one thing that goes wrong, you have to go. So first of all, nothing tells you it's wrong. It's just, oh, it doesn't work. Why? This is the
when your binary is wrong, you don't get a console error.
Yeah. No. You don't get a console when you work with VHDL, and just go down this code base, reviewing everything you just did to just find that maybe it's just your data architecture isn't the right one, and you have to rethink everything. Or sometimes there is just 1 0 more than it should be in your 16 size vector. And you cannot do nothing about it. Wow. I sound like I don't like robotics. I really do. This is amazing. But like, you have to pay attention to so much more thing. And I didn't even go into the details of signal processing, having to deal with noise going through cables and stuff like that. Like really down to the physics of electronics. And that's something else.
And this is something that I really want to ask you about, like why I'm asking you about all the different technologies you've learned. Because like for all of us, learning a new technology is freaking hard. Like when I start learning a new framework, and I have to learn new frameworks for my job, it is challenging. And you're not just learning new frameworks, you're learning new coding languages, you're learning new APIs, new interfaces, new hardware. How do you go about the process of learning a new technology? Especially when some of these technologies are so new, they're poorly documented, they're not very well known.
Actually, so first of all, I love learning new things. Not only about code, but in general. Like, I love to cook, for example. I like to work with new ingredients. Same thing with computers. So I think this first helps because I have been playing with different stuff all of my career. But every time I want to learn something new, I always have the same pattern. First of all, if there are any, do the really basic tutorial, like this button is here or this particular method is there, and just listen to someone. Even if you are not paying attention, just I put a tutorial in the background and I do something else just to learn, have the buzzwords to see where my mistake is. And when I do that, I just simply take a piece of paper and draw out a project, even if I don't know what I am going to need.
Draw a project
like
on paper.
draw the plan of the project that I want to do.
Yeah.
For example, when I've learned Vue, when you go on different YouTube and different YouTube tutorials, the basic thing is a to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
You are in Vue, maybe you did one yourself.
Yeah.
The to-do list is the
classic.
big basic. And after the to-do list, I was like, okay, I have a portfolio to do. Let's say I would like to manage my projects, but instead of hard coding them, I would like to have them going from an Excel sheet that is online, create an API, put it in there, etc., etc. So on my piece of paper, I say I want to do that, do my own little roadmap, if you want, and just learn from there. And it's okay if I don't reach my goal. Every single little thing that I have accomplished is a new tool set.
I really love that we have machine learning, robotics, 3D, and still the first step is pen and paper.
Yeah. Well, this is my way of thinking about it. And
but me too.
Yeah. Well,
it's kind of the best.
Yeah. I just love it. Like a bit of organic. You see, I really like the look and feel of it. But it's just like that. And as you go along, maybe you decide to scrap the project because maybe you didn't thought of this or thought of that, or you just don't like it anymore. My thing is, if I am working on something that is for a hobby, if it is becoming a task along the journey, this just means that I need to stop right now, or I'm going to either lose my mind, go back to the hospital, or just something like this, and then just scrap the idea and work on something else that excites me. So this is how I learn new technologies.
What are some of the new technologies that you're most excited about?
So in general, not only in web development, or
in general.
I would say in a robotics standpoint, well, it's already here, but like, Arduino and the Raspberry Pi, those little things.
Okay,
so
sure. These are like little
hardware.
computers.
Those are hardware you can create robotics stuff with, and it's becoming more and more mainstream to the point that there are little mods, kind of plaques you can just stick onto them and create stuff with them. And something that looks like is happening is that you are going to have so much thing available to you that you are going to be able to build something completely from scratch without any lines of code at all, and just connecting stuff together and create something absolutely glorious.
So what's something that like the average person would understand, like something that you could create?
For example, with Arduino,
there
is a guy on TikTok who I cannot remember the name, but he simply created his own little RC car with a camera attached to it, so plugged to an Arduino that is automatically sending that to a server, so that he can see right away what it is, what he's saying to his screen, and he does his groceries like this from home. He's just sent the car with a little basket, and obviously he knows the guy from the groceries, because it would be really sus to have a damn cart pulling up to the snack aisle. But and he does those little videos where like he puts a dollar bill and a grocery list in the cart. He just arrives, the guy who he knows, take the dollar bill, see the thing, and like he just goes, put the thing in the basket, it goes back home automatically, and
This is awesome. It just makes me think of like being a little kid and thinking that like robots were in the future, and like in some sense I'm kind of like disappointed that we don't have like robotic assistants like in your home, like cooking dinner for you. But like when I hear about that, I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. Like that's the future.
Like you said, like it's basically your fantasies you had as a kid. You can basically make them reality just
That's even better, the fact that like you could do it yourself.
yeah.
So what other technologies are you excited about?
So this is on the robotics spectrum, but on the web, you talked about it, machine learning. I think we are going to be able to see amazing stuff coming along. I don't remember the name of the project, but there is actually this thing where you draw on paper a UX, like with a frame.
You draw like a wireframe of a website?
There we go, wireframe. Thank you. You just draw the wireframe, take a photo, and there is an AI that looks at it and creates the damn HTML and CSS code for you. So this is still in a bit of beta form, but something that is actually happening right now is the no-code website tool buildings right now. So like the whole no-code movement. And this is not only really interesting, but it is scary for front-end developers. Like you can be a designer going to those platforms and just on the course of a couple of hours, you can have a completely done website with different pages, responsive. And all you did was playing with your mouse, put it here, select a color right there, like if you were on Photoshop, for example. And it creates the code that is amazingly well thought out and that works. And you see that as a front-end developer with like all your proud, all your pride and say, oh yeah, I created my starters, I have my CSS this, my CSS that. You're in front of that, the guy created it in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
No code.
Yeah.
The pill is hard to swallow, but
it's hard
it looks like the future.
It's hard to swallow, but it's also a question of like, where do you see something as a challenge versus seeing it as an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
If you really wanted to succeed as like a front-end developer, like a coder who knows their CSS and JavaScript inside and out, and you're looking at these no-code platforms, how would you see it as an opportunity?
The only limit I see right now for those platforms is all the organic stuff you can do with code. I think HTML, CSS will be gone in a few. I think it really will not be here for long. I think no code will take over, but JavaScript as a whole, and just for example, getting back data, putting it on a website, and just backend in general. But also, if we stay on the front end, people like me, creative developers, people are getting more and more specific on what they want on a web page. When I say people, I mean like clients. And it is to a point where I don't think you will be able to do that with no code, or maybe there will be in a few. Like maybe you can integrate, I don't know, maybe a 3D software inside the thing, but it looks like so much of a work. But yeah, I think HTML and CSS will be gone.
Yeah.
Soon, but yeah, you will always need JavaScript and stuff like that. But pure front-end guys doing only HTML, CSS. Once again, this is my 21-year-old boy view. Okay, where
but you have a fresh perspective, and that's what we appreciate.
Where I have only been in the industry for like the past 4 years, but yeah, it was scary.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, we normally in these videos we don't really talk about Prismic itself as a product, but obviously you're talking about this, and I have to think like, am I worried about my job as a developer and documentation writer and even video interviewer at Prismic? What I'm hearing is like, we don't need somebody to code a header element over and over again. We don't need somebody to code a slideshow element over and over again. We've already got GitHub Copilot that can, you just type in image slider and it can fill in that code for you. But what we do need is developers who can kind of like surgically know, okay, we can reuse this boilerplate over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
And then like here, we want to change this one element, or here we want to do this complex, interactive bit, or here we need to like apply some special brand guidelines.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I said, the thing that was so fun about this project is that I did only what I love, which is so nice, so nice. And yeah, like you said, the nitty gritty of the coding, like the headers, having your CSS saying that I want to be in box sizing instead of this, instead of that. yeah, this is a perspective that I really need to see a bit more. Yeah.
Well, this is what I'm thinking about a lot. And again, we don't normally talk about Prismic here, but this is, a lot of us are kind of seeing the same thing. We're kind of moving in the direction of like offering a no-code website builder that developers themselves can actually set up. They can code the individual elements and components themselves if they want. But you could also, like, theoretically, just somebody could create a library of headers and image galleries and stuff. You can install that, and then you can create only the components that you actually need custom for your site and add them to your website builder. So it's kind of like the developers, like I think you said at one point, the developers creating. We only need developers at this point to create the website builder, which is kind of like what we're thinking about doing at Prismic.
Yeah. This is quite a thing. We always are going to need developers. Always. But a certain niche of developers are not going to be here for long, I think. Or maybe they're going to find something else. Once again, when you are a developer, you are always on the edge of learning new things. If you don't do that, you are either retired or you're not going to stay here for long. But
yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of point about being attached to the past, right?
Exactly, or especially in the digital world, especially here. Yeah.
Of course, you're on the other side of it. You seem to kind of be rushing into the future.
Yeah, maybe a bit too
with your sword in the air.
Rushing into the future. Yeah. I might get that tattooed.
Marius, thank you so much for sharing your views on the future of technology and for telling us about what you're doing. So in the next video, what we're going to try to do is Marius is going to walk me through the process of creating some 3D generative art. I have no experience with generative art or 3D, so it should be a disaster. If you do not want to miss it, be sure to subscribe.